Good evening, everybody. May have your attention, please? Thank you all for coming out to Spoken Bar tonight. We're about to have the pleasure of hearing from a legend amongst us. Can you all put your hands together for Joe Stevens?
Patrick, help!
Thanks, Tristan. Hi, I'm a rock photojournalist. I started in New York, taking pictures of Woodstock. And I went to England to see the music that was going to come to New York and play the Fillmore East. I'd see it there first and beat everyone to it, all the other photographers. And I told my editor in New York, I told my editor I'll be back in 2 weeks in New York, and I came back 10 years later. And within a year and a half, 2 years, I was hanging out with this guy on screen. He was a folk singer, David Jones, but he had a lot of things up his sleeve. He was got really great songs, but he sang them in a folk motif and with acoustic guitar, 12-string. And he later turned into David Bowie. He changed his name to David Bowie, and he became a rock and roll star, and formed a band called Spiders from Mars. Yeah. And that's where I come in. This is early, this is just publicity stuff. That's the lens that I use for taking pictures of him. That's the name of the paper, The Enemy. And that's the first cover. That's Bowie on stage at the Rainbow Theatre in London. They didn't give me photographs, so I shot from the balcony, and the pictures were awful. All this stuff there, but it was my start with the paper, and they loved it. They liked all this stuff. They were crazy. This is all Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars with Mick Ronson, Woody Woodmansey, and Trevor something. So that's the beginnings of, and the place was packed, and everyone seemed to know everything about Bowie. I had no clue. Brian Ferry from Roxy Music, Eno, Paul McCartney, Elton John, everyone was in the audience. And I didn't know who those people were either. Great legs. And I'm straight. and you can tell that after listening to his folk music show that he brought in a lot of those songs into his Ziggy show because they were excellent. Most rock and roll lyrics suck. They're not worth paying any attention to at all. And this is what London was like at the early 70s. People living in squats, including Chrissie Hynde. And things were very rough. All shops were closing. Sections of London were completely desolate. This is in Glasgow, Scotland. Some old drunks on the street wrangling people. And here's a priest checking out the porn stores and so on. Hypocrites. And so now, I haven't really met him yet, Mr. Bowie, and he's taken a boat to Japan to do a whole bunch of gigs, and he doesn't fly, won't get in a plane, and he's needed back in the United Kingdom and then later in America because he's becoming an enormous rock and roll star. His records are starting to move in the charts. So he goes to from Japan. He goes to the Thessaloniki, a Russian city. Gets on this Trans-Siberian Express, and it goes through like 4 or 5 timelines, and arrives in Paris. So it's like a 2-week trip, just gray and misery and death and bad food and horrible cigarettes and poor David. And so now he's arrived in Paris, and he's looking like shit in the train. So Angie and a crew do all of this to him. They orange his hair, they give him a suit, they clean up his face, and give him a bath. And now he's at the train station, and he's talking to some of the press. And he's not used to the outfit. He's sort of feeling his tie and stuff. He's not used to dressing so well. And this baggage handler, French guy, he's wondering, what the hell, who are these people? What is going on? And Bowie looked really strange with that outfit, no one in this train station was dressed like him. And so he walks over, and Bowie spoke French. I was very impressed with that. But I hadn't met him yet. I'd never spoken to him. And the reporter said to him, he said, what is this? What is going on here? And Bowie said, well, I'm sort of a pop star, you know. And he said, who are you? He said, I'm David Bowie. And the guy didn't know who he was. They had like a little chat. And this picture's been all over the world. And so it's my introduction to Bowie. And it appeared in some books. And there's Angie with her back to the camera. And one of Bowie's photographers is a blonde guy. And there's the baggage port. And Bowie's really enjoying being a pop star. It's the first time he's been a pop star in Europe in his entire life. And he's really enjoying it. And so they brought in Sue Fossey on the right with the jackets, and the guy left the hair and makeup to doll him up in the train before he came to meet the press at the Paris train station. And this guy here, I'll get his name in a second. The guy in the middle, he's showing pictures of Mick Jagger. This is a different point, but taken in London, and he's showing Jagger his makeup pictures because Pierre Clemente, I think his name was, he did all the makeup with the lightning streaks across Bowie's face and put him on the map, on the world map. And here's Sue Fossey. She later married one of the Spiders, and Cherry Vanilla and a couple other people. This is the entourage, people traveling with him and working for him and doing publicity and costumes and hair. And there's that Sue Fossey shot again. She when they married Mick Ronson. There's Angie Bowie, David's first wife. And they're at the Georges Hotel in Paris the same day after the train station. And he's picked up, he's pretty much got the same outfit from the train station. But he's taking care of press and doing photos. And we're going to stay, all of us, we're going to stay the night. And this shot was on the cover of my paper. Angie was having the time of her life. She sings on some of his records. Here's the cover for today's Herald Edge. There she is with her foot out. I like that shot. I think she was an she sounded like a Yank when I spoke to her. She may have been trying to impersonate me. Because Bowie, during all of this, we were walking through the train station, and he was talking to me, and I said, what's going on here? And later I asked him, I said, what was that all about? You were chatting with me a lot. He said, well, he said, now that I'm becoming a pop star, I realized that I may be able to make some motion pictures, and I may have to play a Yank. So I was studying you. And his impersonation of Joe Stevens is hysterical. Here it is. He's been cleaned up amazingly from the train station. Here's a shot. You see, his teeth are really bad. In fact, they don't look that bad there, but they were. They were nicotine stained. Now he's doing a press conference. He's starting to look tired. It's been a long day. But he still looks like Garbo. And now we're in a restaurant outdoors with Angie, and he's having a steak. He hadn't had good food in the Russian train stations. And a few bits of schnapps, yeah. There's Angie listening to him. Later, when he'd do press conferences, she'd get a bit bored and not paying attention. But in this, she's listened to his every word. She hasn't heard him speak in 2 weeks. And also he's got a pop star persona going. He didn't have one when he went to Japan. He was a folk singer called David Jones. And he's probably thinking, Jesus, I got a lot of work to do. Or maybe he's going to get laid, who knows? Here's that press conference again, David. And so, because he didn't fly, he needed to take a hovercraft, which flew a little bit above the water with fans below and on the sides, from Calais to Dover in England. And so we got on that. And here is Angie and David getting on the hovercraft. And I said, David, this thing still flies. He said, oh, no, I'm really scared. I felt like saying to him, get over it. And so he shot a movie on that train trip. And to this day, I've contacted his widow and some other people in the record company. No one seems to know what happened to it. I'd love to see what he photographed. There's probably a lot of misery and grayness and death and bad sandwiches. And so now we arrive by train. We get off the hovercraft, we get on a train in England at Dover, and we take the train to London, to Victoria Station, and this is what's going on there. So that station, that sort of gives it a time stamp as to when this was happening. That's one of his albums. And all these kids, they're pretty young, most of them. The cops didn't know who David Bowie was. I asked him, I said, dude, do you know who this guy David is? He said, no. Piss off. Here he is in a limo, and he's probably wondering what the hell have I gotten myself into. I hope that guy Joe Stevens takes good pictures. Here he is, I took that. I wrote the article. It's just something about David's chauffeur and his bodyguard. And so as soon as he gets there, they send him to a dentist for cleaning and all of that. They send him to a TV show called the Russell Harty Show. It's an afternoon thing, sort of like what we used to have with Dinah Shore, stuff like that. In the afternoons, my mom used to watch it. But over in England, it was the Russell Harty Show. And so you go on, you sing 2 numbers, and you sit and talk to him. And so this is David Bowie singing My Death. Played acoustic, orange hair, pretty much the same kind of outfit from the train station. But between numbers, he went back to the dressing room. And because I already knew him from the train station, we were big buddies all of a sudden. And I was in the dressing room, and he said, what do you think, Joseph? I said, what? He said, that song. I said, David? My Death? Are you crazy? This is an afternoon TV show. He says, yeah, I'll think I'll try to get them to cut it out. But he didn't, because he loved it. He wanted that mood in the afternoon. And somewhere around there, I'm trying to track this down, he zipped off and made a movie with Nicholas Roeg and Kenny Clark. And that's still from the Russell Harty Show. That's another Garbo shot. I like that. I like his hands. And in this shot, he's in his dressing room, and he's got platform shoes on, and he's pretending to be kicking me, taking pictures of him. And he said, Joe Stevens, you can tell the people at the paper if they run this shot on the cover that the caption underneath should be David Bowie kicking the shit out of Joe Stevens. And they did, of course. It was the enemy. They love stuff like that. That's back to the show. So he had to do 2 numbers. That's the platform shoes. And that's back at the show again. And that's more in the dressing room. That's one of the covers. And so now he had to do a big tour. And it was the end of Spiders from Mars. He was going to suspend them. And it was mostly England, the Aladdin Same Tour, to promote yet another new album. And this woman was, I call this picture Bowie Merch Lady. She's selling merchandise outside a Bowie gig. And she doesn't look like she's having a good time at all. She's having a cigarette. She's miserable. She probably doesn't know who David is. And it looks like she made those things. And this is the tour, and with many costumes. He was fun to photograph because if you've done fashion photography, especially the way it is now with a lot of rock and roll and lights and ramps and stuff, a lot of celebrities and the artists, the photographers doing that work, they need to do vertical shots, head to toe, get the shoes and everything else, and the hats, and to the tune of U2, whoever's playing over the sound system. And rock and roll, when it comes to David Bowie, is the same thing. You shoot vertical, you get complete head to toe, and there's rock and roll going on. And in this case, it's really good rock and roll. And great outfits. And that guy, Pierre Clemente, the makeup guy, he started bringing in these circles on Bowie's head. Later, he did the lightning streaks on his forehead. There's Mick Ronson finishing up his days in the Spiders from Mars. He was the lead guitarist, and he plays on a lot of Bowie stuff. It was really great. He was sort of like the Jeff Beck of the Bowie operation. There's Iggy Pop, a friend from New York, and he loved Bowie music. He loved Bowie shows, and he picked up this girl at a Bowie gig at the Wembley Arena, and he was hitting on her and smoking cigarettes. And I'm pretty sure he scored. And I'd like to show. Good outfits. I think he had some of these made in Japan. This is someone called Lindsay Kemp, choreographer, and he taught Bowie a lot of stuff, a lot of stage moves. So Bowie brought him into the show. So you'll be in the next act, go on. And this guy, he always dressed insanely, even when he was just giving dance lessons. So whenever you told him to get on stage, it was great because it was a stage outfit too. And he was a bit weird. This boy again. This is the original Spiders from Mars, except the lady on the left. There's two of them there. This is one of them. They're all out of work after this tour. There's no. There's Ronson. There's Sue Fussy, who they later got married. The guy on the left. This is at a gig in London in some theater, very proper theater with curtains and good lighting and stuff, and a fantastic bar. The guy on the left is Tony DeFries, who was Bowie's manager, a bandit, a crook. The guy with the shades is the amazing Orlando, a blind dancer. So they brought him into the show. They'd have a blind dancer on stage. He was fantastic. And I don't know the guy in the beard. That's Angie on the right. And Bowie's on stage doing something amazing, something magical. And there's the amazing Orlando, blind and dancing. How he knew where the stage front was, I don't know. There's Angie. This is a security firm that just handled Bowie, Sturco. Wherever he went, if he left the bathroom at a bar, there'd be security with him to protect him in case something crappy was going to happen. There's Bowie. Now this is the United States, and I'm sitting with my mom in her kitchen in Long Island, New York. I'm on a visit to New York from London, and we're watching daytime TV, and this Dinah Shore Show comes on, and there's David, and he's talking to Dinah, and then the person next to him is Iggy Pop, and they're going to go on tour, and David's going to play keyboards for him. And so I wrote this piece on, this is like a transcript from, I just sort of recorded everything I heard on the set and took a couple of pictures. My mom was watching me and she said, "What are you doing? I said, well, this guy Bowie's a big star. This guy Iggy's nuts. And so in the show, you hear Diana, there's Diana, actually, the Diana show. She says to, she's very straight, she says to David, she says to Iggy, she said, Iggy, is it true that you put hot wax on your chest? And Iggy said, yeah, well, I was really angry with myself. I was mistreating some girl and left her on the road. And Bowie fell off the chair in hysterics. He thought that was really funny. There's Iggy, very recently at the Cannes Film Festival. And so he and Jim Jarmusch, the movie director, made a film, a documentary about him called Gimme Danger, which will be in your theaters and hopefully the musical next month, October. I've got pictures in it of Iggy in midair jumping into the audience. I haven't seen this yet, I'm looking forward to it. And Jarmusch is a friend of mine and a very good director from New York. There he is on the right, there's Jarmusch with the actor Richard Henson. He was in some of the, he was in a couple of Jarmusch's earlier films. So and then he worked another tour, and it was mostly acoustic and normal costumes, and he worked for 80 City Musical, that's where this was thinking. And here's one of the people who waited in line to get a ticket. It's Wayne County, completely insane. But we love him. There's David singing his heart out. There's Ava Cherry, who's one of his vocalists and good friend. They did 5 days in Philly. And in the middle of the 5 days, there was a day off. And he was playing the Spectrum. And we needed to find something to do for Wednesday, because there's nothing, no gig. So David instructed his limousine driver to take us to all the crummy bars in Philly, all the really seedy, horrible lunch wagon bars, all the winos and stuff. He wanted to go there and hang out. So we did. And we went to this one place, it was upstairs, and David wasn't too crazy about American cops. He'd seen some nastiness, some brutality in Los Angeles earlier. And so we're sitting there, we're drinking beer out of the can, talking about music and hanging out with David Cherry and the rest of the crew. And the place fills up with cops. It turns out the night that we couldn't work at the Spectrum, it was a big hockey game, Stanley Cup. The Flyers against someone. And these guys, these cops, were the security for that show. So we poured in there because the game was over. And so Bowie sees all these cops, and we're out of there. And the cars get warmed up. And as he's coming down the stairs, the cop on the right says to him, he says, "You're David Bowie, aren't you?" He said, Bowie said, well, I could be. Why do you ask? And the cop said, "Well, I did security for you last night. You're really good." There's Lou Reed at one of his gigs, looking like he'd done something. See how gentle I am? And there's Ava and some of the other people. That's back in New York at the Gramercy Park Hotel. A lot of bad behavior going on there. There's Radio City again. Radio City. That's Cleveland. That's on the left. That's the great blues singer Luther Vandross. Fantastic. He didn't have long to go. I think he died the next year. He sang in chorus with Bowie. I got to hang out with him at airports. He was wonderful. He was a real sweet guy. I don't think he knew how great he was. I tried to tell him, and he just looked at me, and I felt, he's heard this shit from white guys before. That's the great Mike Garson, Bowie's piano player. Fantastic, very crazy Thelonious Monk style mentality with playing the keyboards. How am I doing?
Excellent.
Should I go home? This is fun. I can go forever. Yeah, this is Philadelphia at the East Spectrum. Because there was more games coming up for the Stanley Cup for the Flyers, the whole show was done on ice, boards put over the ice. I like that. This is the itinerary sheet full of rooms, and I think instead of using the real names for Bowie, I think they give him the name Fruitcake. Okay, back in New York at the Gramercy Park Hotel, from the New York Dolls, that's the guy that David is speaking to on the right, holding his shitanis. And David's been in the business, been fronting with the New York Dolls for maybe 10 years more than David has, but David has a lot to tell him about how to conduct his career. And I asked David lunchtime, a couple of years later, I said, did you get any information out of that? He said, oh, mountains. The guy just naturally just picked up the whole rock and roll world in one segment of his life. He was very skilled at sussing what was going on, what were the best moves. The paper that I worked for did a book called The Interview. So now I'm back in London. I'm off that tour. He finishes. He does San Diego and a couple other places, and I'm leaving a lab in Soho, and I think I'm planning to go home with all these pictures that I had processed, and then pick out the ones that I wanted to bring down to the NME and other publications, and go to a post office and spend a ton of money. And I leave the lab. And Soho is really tiny streets. A limousine pulls up, and the windows come down, smoke the windows, and it's him, Mr. B. And he's looking at me. He says, "You got any pictures of me there?" And I said, "Yeah, too." I didn't know what to say to him. I was nonplussed. And he said, "Get in." So I got into the car. It was 11 o'clock in the morning, and I said, "I can't show you this stuff. We need a light box. We need. I can't show you. I don't want to take anything out. I haven't edited anything. I'm a big ego guy. I like to cut out all the garbage." He says, "Yeah, me too." He said, where would you look at it?" I said, "Back at my house." He said, "Where do you live?" And he said, "Tell the driver." So I leaned past the dividing glass, told the driver where I lived. I lived in Fulham, Chelsea area, about 20 minutes from Soho. So we went there, and I lived with a photographer called Katie Simon, and she was very, very busy. But on that particular day, it was her off day, so she was sleeping in, and so and it was before cell phones, so I couldn't warn her.
Yeah.
I didn't have phones in the car, and so I called. We get to the house, and I bring Bowie into the house, and she's walking around smoking a cigarette, drinking a coffee in her bathroom. And Bowie, she knows who he is. She's a pop photographer as well as me. And she went nuts. And Bowie tried to calm her down. And we looked at the pictures, and he initialed all the things he wanted the record company to buy from me. So I made quite a few dollars that day, I think. And so I said, "So what are you doing at 11 o'clock in the morning?" And he said, "I'm going to go to see a band." I said, "A band at 11 o'clock in the morning? What kind of band is this?" He said, "Well, let's get some egg sandwiches and stuff. You like tea? We'll get a tea, and we'll get that stuff to go. Then we'll go to the studio, the club, and we'll see this band." And we went, and these people were in there rehearsing. And this is a band called Carmen. The worst band in the history of white people. Just absolutely diabolical. You wanted to kill them. they're doing flamenco at a rock and roll stage. It's awful. And Bowie loved him. And he'd been commissioned by NBC to do Midnight Special, a TV show. And he could hire anyone he wanted. He could shoot it for 2 days and open up a club, take out a club. So he took over the marquee where the Who started out. And this is the Midnight Special. It was on Friday nights. It ran through the 70s, very, very big ratings. And many stars worked on it. And Bowie rang up his makeup people and said, "I'd like some plastic chest attached to my chest." And plastic hands. And they said, "Why?" And he said, "Because I'm David Bowie." There's Lindsay Kemp freaking people out because there's a very straight audience there. And then that's the hands. What? What, you like that? Chris Hislop's dad has this picture. What happened? Oh, yeah. It is kind of weird. I've seen it many times. And there's Amy Cherry. She was in the show. She lives in Boston. She was rumored to have been at one of my shows at Sonny's, but I didn't see her. This is backstage. Saxophones and trumpets and singers and dope. There's Mick Ronson. He's back. He's not a Spiders from Mars anymore. He's the guitarist for Bowie. And there's you can see my picture on the cover. Just of the picture on the bottom. The picture on the top is the same shot. And so he got on Marianne Faithfull, who dated Jagger and everyone else during the early stages of the Rolling Stones. And they bring her on, and she's dressed like a nun, and she sings a chorus with David. She's very good. And this is Angie on the right, and Sue Fossey putting on some Midnight Special costumes for David. There's Angie. There's Marianne Faithfull. Very busty in that shot. I don't know what happened. I don't remember her being that busty. I like saying that word, busty. But she was very flirty, very flirty eyes. And there's the color shot. There's Lindsay again in a different outfit. Lindsay was very photographable. I mean, always doing something insane. And he played excellent 6-string or 12-string. Just by picking it up, he banged out some really good tunes. He was very skilled on acoustic. And this is more of a Midnight Special. So they had different sets for different songs and different outfits. So there's like 12 different outfits and 12 sets. And it took 2 days to shoot it. It was a big scoop for me because I'm the Yank on the paper, and all the other photographers in Britain, all the ones in London, they hated me because they thought I was taking work away from their other Brit photographers, which I was. What are you going to do? There's a technician hanging out with Bowie. There's Mike Garson on the left, and Bowie's pushing pinups. That was a more recent album. So we've seen like 3 different albums go flying by. There's David Cherry on the right. Some more Midnight Special. That's from, what movie is that from? Bartlett. What film is that from? Who cares? And so in the show, a singer, this delicate woman comes on stage, and she's introduced by David as Amanda Lear. I've been hanging out with her between takes off the side of the stage, and I was actually hitting on her. She's really cute and very pretty, very sultry, and she wanted nothing to do with me. But she had to play ball because we're all part of the filming of the show, and I was just still photographer for that day. And so she gets on stage, she sings, She's very delicate. She's got small hands, small feet. She was dating Brian Ferry, the lead singer of Roxy Music. Guess what? She was a guy. Look at his hands. Isn't it amazing? She was a guy. So some of the guys in the paper gave me a lot of crap after that. They said, "You're hitting on guys now." Yeah, a lot of amazing outfits. Some of the stuff needs to be edited. There's Angie showing off one of her outfits, hitting the bottle at that point. It looks like he's gargling. And so, in and around the same time, the other competition was Roxy Music with Brian Ferry's lead and Eno in the band, playing keyboards and singing. Later, he became a big producer for U2. And there he is with, what's the name of that saxophone player? Phil something? And there's the entire band. There's all the Roxy Music. There's Ferry on the right. The guy with that funny jacket regrets it forever. Eno looks cool. This is in my studio in New York with Eno. There's now they're starting to date. They're not so busy any longer. Sue Fossey and David and Mick Ronson. So they're starting to have warm feelings for each other, which led to children and marriage. There's Robert Fripp. He did some work with Eno and Bowie and Iggy on Low in Berlin, one of his best albums. And then he made a movie with Susan Sarandon, where he progressively ages. I find it very uncomfortable, the movie, watching it. So now I'm shipped off to Paris, and limousine picks me up and takes me 90 miles outside Paris to the Chateau de Hérouville, a recording studio where you live, and they feed you and they do all kinds of things to you, and you make albums and you do art and just stay there. And if you get restless, they send it for a limousine and they bring you to London, and you get nice and crazy and wrecked, and you go back to work again. And so Bowie had this girl, Dana Gillespie, come in. Thanks, Joe. Dana, she was a singer, British girl, also very busty. And she comes in, she did some vocals for Pinups. And Pinups was Bowie's idea for an album. All songs not by Bowie, but by other heroes of his, like Pete Townsend and the guys in the Pink Floyd, and Ray Davies from the Kinks, and stuff that they recorded when David was a young boy, and there were the B-sides of singles that David actually bought at the record store. And he often wondered, when he was a young man listening to this stuff, why the B-sides didn't do too well, because he loved them. Like See Emily Play by the Pink Floyd. He just thought that was an astounding, great song, beautifully recorded. It was only B-side. And there she is. She doesn't look like she's ready to do any recording. and so the paper I was working for took that shot, cut her out, and there's the cover. Because he's the man, and they could care less about Busty. And there he is recording Pinups, which I was there for most of the recording. And I think it's a fine album. I loaned it to Al Mead and never got it back. Al,
You're getting loaded up again.
yeah, I don't know what that is. Yeah.
I think it's water.
It's cool.
It's all water.
Thanks. Yeah, and so I heard in the lunchroom, there was like a place where we all met and ate, and they'd feed us and bring us food, and we'd sit on benches, and then go back into the two studios and record. And one night I was walking around the place. I was starting to get a little bit batty, living all the way out in the country. And because I wasn't recording, they were doing art. I was just running around taking the occasional picture. And I hear piano. There was an acoustic piano, or a grand piano, in that lunchroom with all kinds of interesting art on the walls. So I went in there, and there's David all alone doing the keyboards for one of the songs that he was going to record the next day. So I asked him, is it okay if I take a couple pictures? And he said, this was like a really private moment. And he said, oh, sure. And then when he was finished, he stood up and he said, Joseph, are you getting bored? I said, yeah, I'm going nuts. He said, I'm getting the limo. So he calls for the limo, and all of us pile in. Ava, Gillespie, Ronson, the producer of the record, we all pile into this limo. There's about 9 people, a little bit too much. And we go into London, into Paris, and we go to a restaurant that Bowie, he wants to run into Serge Gainsbourg. And it's the Cafe Les Deux Magots.
Sorry to interrupt, but it's really quiet.
Get your microphone closer to your face.
Oh, sorry. Get your money back. and so we poured into Les Deux Magots, and there was in the back part of the restaurant was Serge Gainsbourg and his crowd, and with Jane Birkin, and in her tummy was Gainsbourg, the actress. What's her first name? Charlotte Gainsbourg. And so she was pregnant with that child. And we sat with them, and everyone got really hammered. And Bowie had told the limousine driver, wait for me. And so we were in there for hours. And I guess the limousine driver didn't know who Bowie was or how important he was, because he drove away, leaving us stranded in a rainstorm. So Bowie and I found a taxi. We just walked through the rain, got soaking wet. And so I was lost in space and rain with David Bowie in Paris. It was quite a treat. So back the next day in the studio, they're recording. He orders from Paris some string players, some violinists. So 3 guys show up and don't speak any English, and he wants them to sing, to play on one of the tracks. He hears some of the stuff, their contribution to what they think, their interpretation of what he may want recorded. He goes up to them. He's got a pocket of money in his back pocket, big wad of French francs. He walks up to. He says, oh, where do you get paid for this? And they said, blah, 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 because they were union. And he paid them, and he put them on the limousine and sent them back to Paris because he didn't like the way they played. This guy, he knew his stuff for a brand new person to the scene. I just put this in this morning. And so he's you didn't want to mess him around with him because you'd break his thought, and he's really thinking about songs. Here he is with Ronson, and Tony Scott produced some of the early Bowie albums. He's at the desk. And there's some of the shots in some book that came out. There's Ronson, looking really pretty outside the recording studio. There's Ronson with some of the fan clubs that came in from Paris. They were admiring this boy's butt. Ronson wasn't really into that kind of stuff. He was into smoking cigarettes and Sue Fussy. I like the trousers. Screaming his head off. And I don't remember what song it was. There's Tony Scott. He's British royalty. He produced Ziggy Stardust and three great albums by Bowie. And he also produced Life on Mars. There's one of the maids at the Chateau de Herreville in Paris, and they put up with a lot. Poor girls. There it is. This is, I cribbed this off of some TV show. I like the way it looked. I didn't take it. This is Andy. He had a conflict with Andy because he wrote that song, Andy Will. And Andy thought it was the worst thing he'd ever heard. So now he's on the cover of Time magazine. And then he's walking down 8th Street in New York, through a gay section of the city. And people jumping up to him and kissing him. There's me and Andy Wall. You like Andy, huh? Yeah, some guy giving David a kiss. My haunt, my watering bowl in the late 70s was, from 77 on, was CBGB's, a punk rock nightclub in the Bowery, very close to where I lived, in West Village. So I went there one night, and there's Bowie and Eno checking out a band. And the audience is going nuts. And Debbie's there. And they're still working, they had made it yet. They were still waiting to get out of work in CBGB's, which is a real haul. And he doesn't look like he's having a good time. And that's Legs McNeil, a friend of mine. He wrote for Punk magazine. And while Bowie was checking out this band in CBGB's, which is also Legs McNeil's hangout pub, he went out and stole Bowie's limousine hubcaps. So later I asked him, I said, what are you going to do with the hubcaps? He didn't sign them. There could be hubcaps from any limousine. He said, well, yeah, that's what he did. Big brain. And so here's Bowie about to leave. He's on the Bowery. So then he chose to introduce, he loved Devo. Devo were playing Max's Kansas City, another club in New York. And so he brings that girl there next to him, Monique Van Vuren, an actress. And he brings her, and they're sitting in this very cloudy club. And there's her legs way in the background, right above David's head. See her? The dark hair. Standing. And so, I missed a couple of shots. So just skipping along, one night I take the bass player from the Clash, Paul Simonon, to see Iggy at some club in New York. And there's the Clash, so I bring them the night before, I bring them to CBGB's. And they'd never been there. It was the first time to New York. And I knew them from London, especially Joe on the right, he was the lead singer. And so we get there, and the owner, Billy Crystal, is standing at the bar, and he says, who are those guys? I said, that's the Clash. He said, that's the Clash? They were recording for Columbia Records, a big band, major band, but they hadn't cracked America yet, but they were about to. And he said, what are they doing here? I said, well, I don't know, we're kind of broke. Could we have a couple of beers? He said, a couple of beers. If they did a set here this weekend, they could own the club. They didn't do a set, and he didn't own the club, but things were rough there. We got a couple of beers out of it. You know? And so here's Bowie introducing Devo. He adored them. I thought they were awful. So back at the Iggy show, where I take the guy on the right to see Iggy. He's the baseball. There's a VIP balcony above the stage, over to the stage left, and I'm taking pictures through the glass of this VIP room of Iggy taking it out on stage and freaking out the audience. And so I'm watching that, and I hear, and I look to my left, and it's David. And I knew his laugh. And I hadn't seen him in a while, but we run into talking about things like, boy, weren't those Chicago girls hotties, huh? So we didn't discuss any of that. We just picked up from seeing Iggy take it out on stage in New York City. And so that's Lisa Robinson, she's the music critic for Vanity Fair right now. So we went downstairs and hung out outside Iggy's dressing room. And there's David and someone. He's all dressed up. He just bought some really fancy outfits because the Clash had made it, and he had a few bucks in the pocket. So David said to him, he said, "So what brings you guys recording? What are you doing in town?" He said, "We've got a whole bunch of gigs to do. We're doing a gig tomorrow night at Shea Stadium." Bowie said, "Shea Stadium?" He said, "Yeah, we're supporting the Who. It's their retirement tour." And David said, "Oh, bloody hell, I didn't know about that." He said, "Can I go?" And soon I said, "You mean you want to get on the list, on the gate?" And David said, "Yeah." He said, "David, you can get on the list on the gate any place in the world. You're David Bowie." So they got him on the list, and he showed up. And the band was completely blown away. They loved it, and he had a good time. These are some of my last pictures of David, by the way. And then this last one is by Roberta Bailey, a good friend of mine, photographer in New York. She did the Ramones covers. She shot this last week in New York City. She saw Lazarus at Lincoln Center. She's a big Bowie fan. She's still in a state of grief. We miss her.